Hello, fellow adventurers. I'm thrilled to welcome you to our digital realm, a place where pixels come alive. So let's begin with our story.
In the previous episode, we saw the protagonist. She impressed everyone in the Rudwick family and plans to be on the good side of Rice. The Rice Sinclair was born to be the main character of this world, but her life was full of turmoil before she arrived at Rudwick's manor. She was the part of the Sinclair family first, and the Sinclair children used to bullied Rice for her illegitimate birth. She was the victim of their undisguised persecution. Then one day, she saved Mrs. Duchess Rudwick from falling off her horse and caught the Duchess's attention, and they were furious to learn about the young gentle Rice is being abused. So, the Rudwicks asked for custody of Rice in exchange for forgiving a large loan. The Sinclairs were quick to hand over custody, but they later regretted their decision when they realized they had lost the chance to marry into the Rudwick family. Rice ends up with a happy ending and all the luck in the kingdom. Unlucky protagonist.
My life was filled with misfortune from start to finish. At work, I was bullied by my manager, who was only a year older than me. After work, I ended my relationship with my boyfriend, who had chosen to sleep with another woman instead of spending time with me. After that, I was on my way home to escape into my favorite web novels. And that was the end of me. I wonder what my brother did after I died on those stairs. Did my parents cry over my death? They probably cared more about my brother than me. Right, who cares about them? I'm going to focus on myself first.
After doing all the self-motivation stuff, she moves on with the all-negative thoughts, and she spots Rice in the garden sitting alone under the tree reading a book.
Maybe I should try to get close to her. Anything's better than standing around doing nothing.
Suddenly, Killian appeared near Rice, emerging from behind the tree out of nowhere.
What are you reading, Rise?
Oh, a book about the history of the imperial court. I never received any formal education about this, and I don't want to embarrass His Grace with my ignorance.
Sure, if learning can give you fulfillment, please let me know how I can assist you in any way.
That's exactly what a secondary love interest would say. If it were Cliff, he would tell her to focus on being happy, nothing else. I'll give you the world, you only focus on me. Stuff like that. Whatever. It's too late to approach Rice, and I don't want to eavesdrop.
Rice asks Edith's whereabouts to Killian.
But Killian, where is Edith? And why are you alone, Killian? Have you been avoiding Edith all day?
Rise, you don't need to mind her so much, we're just keeping her here for a little while as a hostage.
So that's how he thinks of me.
And scene shit to Sinclair Manor, and we introduce to Layla Sinclair. We see the youngest daughter of Count Sinclair pulling her hair furiously because Killian got married to Editha.
Why does it have to be her, of all the women in the world? Why choose that woman?
And next, we are introduced to one more new character, the oldest son of Count Sinclair, Damien Sinclair. He was enjoying her younger sister's temper, and Layla Sinclair got suspicious of her brother's calm demeanor.
Brother, you know something, don't you? So, what's the secret? Stop stringing me along and cut to the chase.
As impatient as ever. Now, let's think this through. What will motivate them to marry each other? What would be the two families get out of joining their houses? First, Count Reigelhoff holds the rights to the iron mine in the southern mines. That means he has the raw material needed to manufacture weapons. Now, here's a question for you. Why might that be important right now?
Maybe, weapons. How should I know?
Ooh. My dear sister, it's okay, you do not have to think about it much.
What, that's not good news for me. Are you teasing me? You said you'll explain why they needed to marry.
Sure, that's what everyone thinks. But Layla, this is where it gets interesting. Is Count Reigelhoff truly under the control?
With that, we see a flashback where Editha is being abused by her father for not spying on Duke Rudwick and not providing any information. As a consequence, she would not receive dinner till the next week if she didn't manage to obtain any information. Damien Sinclair has taken aback by seeing this version of Editha Reigelhoff. Editha was never the cold and cunning villain she pretended to be. Layla is shocked to know the reality of Editha Reigelhoff.
It may be hard to believe, but I saw it with my own eyes. Let's see how this all plays out. Once the perfect moment comes to reveal this truth, I can end the Reigelhoffs.
The scene shifts and we are returned to the present moment where Butler showing the left places of manor. While the protagonist thinks about what she is going to do after this.
Now what should I do in my free time?
You don't worry about that. Her Grace said that she will give you tasks starting today.
Really? I was getting so bored and antsy doing nothing all day.
You can visit Mrs. Dutch now. Her office is down the hall, right, the third door on the left.
I feel like I've already memorized the entire mansion's layout. Thanks, Renan. I think I'm a pretty good student, don't you agree?
It would be strange to forget after a week of repetition. Yes, you are a pretty good student.
Welcome, Lady Edith.
Miss Rice. Oh my, so we get to work together. I'm so glad. It's my first time, so I hope to learn a lot from you.
Ho ho, looks like you've grown close already.
Ah, I should have greeted you first, Mother.
No, don't worry about that. And Rice, can you explain the documents which you were organizing for Lady Edith?
Sure.
The protagonist.
Are you waiting for someone?
Then Rice explains her Grace called the seamstresses in. Suddenly protagonist remembers it's a major plot point of the story, where Mrs. Dutch is going to give both Rice and Edith to choose a dress, and obviously she will prefer the design Rice picks, or she will pick both designs and get more compliments wearing Rice's choice, and we see the protagonist choosing the designs regardless of knowing the outcome which has already decided.
Aside from being the star of the show, Rice had 5 years to learn the Duchess's taste. In comparison to me, I have only ever seen dresses like this in web novel illustrations. What should I do? Rice picked a design already. And everyone appreciating Rice's picked design and complimenting how good it going to be look on Mrs. Duchess's fair skin, and the blue silk will highlight her amber eyes.
Mrs. Duchess asks Edith if anything catches her eye.
It's hard to choose because Rice made such an excellent choice.
But still, she shows a dress to the Mrs. Duchess.
If you ever want to change up your wardrobe, a dress like this might do the job. Protagonist in her mind, only few women can appreciate the unique color combination of this dress. But only mature ladies like the Mrs. Duchess can pull off flashy outfits like that. I'm not trying to win this competition either way. Beating the main character will only work against me in the end.
The protagonist.
Mother, your beauty and elegance would bring this dress to life.
You are making me blush, then I suppose I'll trust your judgment. Those are the 2 dresses for me now, so shall we choose a dress for Rice?
Then Mrs. Duchess selects some designs for Rice and Edith helps her in choosing the right dress.
Rice has the flawless skin and rosy cheeks to match this dress.
Goodness, you're right. You certainly have an eyes for these things, Edith. What do you think about this white dress with the empire waist?
I'm sure she would look good in that dress, but it might make her look too young. If we are looking for a simple, white dress, how about this robe?
You are right. She could add an aquamarine brooch for a splash of color.
Mrs. Duchess requested shemsters for 5 dresses, but Mrs. Duchess forget about Edith.
Oh my, where's my head at? You need to choose a design for yourself, Edith.
Edith refuses to get a new dress and instead asks for her old dresses to be altered. From the protagonist's perspective, the best way for a villain to survive reincarnation in a romance fantasy novel is to change how everyone perceives them. Everyone compliments Edith for her change of taste.
I'm putting in a lot efforts to get on the Mrs. Duchess's good side. I'm even started calling her mother.
In the next scene, on the way to her room, she sees Killian standing in front of her bedroom door.
Killian wouldn't come to my room for no reason. What brings you here?
Killian coldly orders Edith to follow him because Rice has invited her to have tea. The protagonist thinks about the plot of this story. Does it happen in the actual story?
Rice must have asked him to fetch me.
On the way, the protagonist starts admiring Killian's physique from behind.
How attractive his broad shoulders are and his slim waist. I have never been so attracted to a man's body like this. He is so hot. Is he used to be a professional swimmer or something? But don't you worry, Rice. All I'm going to do is look to your man. Oh shit, did he notice me checking him out?
I'm warning you now. Watch what you say in front of Rise. Rise is practically my family. She's far more precious to me than you. Understand?
The protagonist gets angry and starts shouting at Killian.
Wow. You really know how to hurt a woman.
What do you mean?
I'm human too.
Human? I thought you were a viper.
How cruel of you, Killian. Do you want me to treat Miss Rice with the same courtesy you are showing me? It seems like you're intentionally trying to upset me and make me a villain. Unfortunately, you can't influence me so easily. Of course, the fact that you hurt me. But this is a separate issue for me.
The protagonist walks away from Killian after confronting him. And we see in the next scene the protagonist arrives at Rice's tea party and Rice welcomes the protagonist and invites her to sit beside her. Then, Killian joins the tea party too. During their conversation, Cliff compliments Edith on how well she has adjusted to her new life. And Cliff recommended that they consider starting on a honeymoon. Given that they are still newlyweds, this could be a wonderful opportunity for both of them to travel and spend quality time together. The protagonist in her mind.
You want to send Killian off with me and monopolize the Rices at that time?
The protagonist replies to Cliff.
I'm not sure. Killian seems very busy with his duties and winter is almost over now, and it's the time to start exploring our lands.
Cliff expressed his agreement by nodding his head and asked Rice.
Rice, would you like to accompany me? You told me you wanted to travel more.
Rice shows some hesitation in her expression, and before Rice can say something, Killian intervenes.
Don't put Rise in the difficult spot, Cliff, and Rise, you can ignore what he said.
Cliff smartly replies to Killian in a surprising tone.
Did I put her on a difficult spot? I think she would be more uncomfortable if I left right now. She would be alone with you.
The protagonist after listening to the whole conversation.
Cliff is right. When the three of them are together, they appear to be model siblings, but as soon as Cliff leaves the arrangement, everyone will see the romantic potential between Rice and Killian. Cliff is cunning, as expected from the second main character of the story after the Rice.
Suddenly Cliff asks the protagonist what she thinks about what he said is right. Once he leaves the manor, only the protagonist, Rice, and Killian would be left in the manor alone. The protagonist feels as Cliff is trying to pull her legs.
Wait, what kind of strange question is that? He knows I'm not loved by anyone here. He's toying with me. No one in this household has any manners.
The protagonist answers to the Cliff's weird question.
I don't care either way. Do whatever you like to do.
To Edith's response, Cliff makes a surprised face.
Wait.
Touring the land is a part of your duties as the heir, Cliff. You'll do what you need to do. It's not my place to tell you whether or not you should go. As far as taking Rice along, however, I honestly think that seems a bit presumptuous on your part. Traveling such long distances by carriage is exhausting. And it's not like she's your wife. Don't you think that requesting her to accompany you is a bit extra? I don't know if it sounds unreasonable.
After all the conversations between protagonist and Cliff, Rice gives a suspicious response with her smile, which shocks the protagonist as she's seen something out of the character.
What was that? Perhaps I saw wrong. Yeah, she's not the person I need to beware of.
Our story ends here. We will meet soon again with the new chapter.